The Eminence in Shadow is a pretty cookie-cutter isekai anime. Badass, antisocial, overpowered protagonist, tsundere girls, getting hit by a truck and dying, it's all pretty standard stuff. Until you actually watch the show, that is. For a story that was built seemingly around a simple power fantasy, The Eminence in Shadow has somehow achieved a level of comedy that's on par or maybe even better than stuff like Konosuba and Princess Connect. With a main character that has an obsession with being the Eminence in Shadow, who builds a team of cute badass girls through actual gaslighting, and all of it being tied together with the mold of a super strong character who hides his identity. The premise itself is already batshit enough to make a surprisingly hilarious plot. We follow our obsessive main character Sid, whose entire life goal in both his old life and new one is to become the definition of a badass anti-hero. No, seriously. Man watched The Dark Knight once and decided to jump in front of an 18-wheeler. So basically the entire story is centered around this high school kid who wants to be some badass in the shadows vigilante who's borderline invincible and all-powerful, which makes him sound completely insufferable and like a total Gary Stu, but his self-awareness actually turns it around and makes him a really funny character. Like there's a gap between chasing coins one episode and then the very next episode blowing the entire city up, but apparently for Sid it's just a crack in the sidewalk. This character is basically what a 14-year-old kid would imagine himself being while sitting in the shower listening to Panic at the Disco. He's kinda like if Batman had superpowers. And, was broke. And while he's obsessed with becoming this ultimate life form and being super chuny about it, Sid is actually a pretty logical and self-aware guy. In fact, he believes that the literal army of assassin waifus are just playing along with him and his crazy antics. Okay. I mean, at least he still thinks like a normal person. And this guy literally refers to people in his life as video game character tropes. Dude legit chooses whether or not to give a shit about someone based off of their hair color. This show is like a commentary on every single isekai protagonist while playing with the same hand of cards. It's genius. Sid's narration on not only his own actions but also the world around him really gives an idea of just how ridiculous some of the things that happen in isekai are. And yet, his total obliviousness towards his actual role in the story due to his obsession with playing the mob character leads to some of the most unique interactions between characters I've ever seen in a show like this. Take the first arc after he gets to school where the literal princess of the country asks him to fake being her boyfriend. We've all seen this plot before. In a typical show, this would lead to the two developing actual feelings for each other and then being too shy to tell the other and the situation never gets resolved. In this show, Sid rejects her because it would get in the way of him playing the mob character, and he just goes along with his day being an NPC. Or at least failing at being an NPC. Because apparently he doesn't really understand the power scaling of this world and he ends up impressing everyone instead every single time he tries to be an NPC. For example, taking like 1 trillion hits from the strongest swordswoman in the academy and then still sticking around to fight. Not only does he fail to prove that he's weak and pathetic, he gains the respect of his opponent and everyone in the stands by complete accident. The way they managed to blend the overpowered character trope with the funny goofy Konosuba humor is something not a lot of shows have accomplished. I mean, a show about a badass, edgy, overpowered guy leading an army of badass, edgy, overpowered waifus against an evil organization behind the back of society? That's a show I would watch on its own. But then they add the fact that the guy's a total Batman fanboy and doesn't know he has this army of badass, overpowered waifus, which he gaslit into believing that a real organization that he thought he made up but actually exists and needs to be fought. Like, come on, there are multiple hundreds of these girls. You cannot be seriously thinking that they are all playing along. There is one small criticism I do have though, and it's one that I have with most anime humor, which is that it's basically the exact same joke over and over again the entire time. This one being that Sid is trying to be a mob character and Batman at the same time and is too deep in the Batman side of things to realize that he's failing at being the mob character. However, this show kind of remedies that by being able to mix the power fantasy side perfectly with these jokes, so it's almost like it cleanses your palate a bit with a bit of badassery before getting into the Psyche K-esque daily life stuff. And I'm really enjoying all the light novel and manga adaptations we've been getting in recent seasons, because I remember reading a lot of these on mangarock before that shut down, so it's been really hype seeing them pop up in seasonal anime. That'll be it from me. My name is Sue, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.